The warm haze of a California sunset melted into the suburban streets of Glenridge, wrapping the town in gold as sprinklers hissed quietly against perfectly trimmed lawns. The air carried the distant echoes of laughter, the bounce of basketballs on driveways, and the rhythmic hum of cicadas settling into dusk. 13-year-old Avery Langston was on his way home from practice, his gym bag slung across one shoulder, his basketball spinning loosely under one hand. His mind wandered between the final drills his coach had them run and the leftover pizza he hoped would still be in the fridge. His neighborhood, though clean and quiet, had never truly felt like home. He knew the looks, the whispers, the assumptions. It was only when he crossed Mulberry Street, less than a block from his house, that the patrol car turned the corner with abrupt purpose, its lights flickering red and blue across the empty sidewalk. Avery paused. He'd done nothing wrong. The squad car slowed, then stopped right in front of him. The door swung open. "Hey, you!" barked the officer stepping out. He was tall, early 40s, with a rigid jaw and mirrored sunglasses despite the fading light. "Step over here." Avery blinked. "Is there a problem, sir?" The officer's boots crunched against gravel as he approached. "You match the description," he said, gripping Avery's arm without warning. "Description?" Avery asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Of what?" The cop tightened his hold. "Stolen bike. Black male, dark hoodie, basketball shorts. You check every box." "I just came from school," Avery said quickly. "That's my house right there. I didn't steal anything." The officer laughed, a short, sharp sound filled with disbelief. "You expect me to believe that, kid?" "My dad's in the Special Forces," Avery said, standing his ground. "He's going to be here any second." That made the cop pause, then chuckle. "Sure he is." But Avery didn't flinch. He knew what was coming next. The same thing that had happened to his cousin last summer. The same thing that happened to his neighbor's older brother. He braced himself as the cop's hand moved to his belt. The officer's radio crackled, but he ignored it. "We'll sort it out downtown," he said flatly, reaching for his handcuffs. "Don't," Avery whispered, suddenly afraid. "Please, just wait." The officer clamped one cuff around the boy's wrist. A low rumble broke through the neighborhood silence. The sound of tires. Fast. Angry. A black SUV came screeching around the corner and skidded to a stop directly behind the patrol car. Its windows were tinted pitch black, its engine still rumbling like thunder held barely in check. The cop turned, startled. His hand flew instinctively to his holster. The driver's door flung open, and out stepped a man who looked like he'd been carved out of steel and storms. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, composed, his black combat boots slamming the pavement with force. Dressed in civilian clothes, but unmistakably military. There was an energy around him that froze the moment. Avery looked up, relief flooding his face. "Dad." The man, Staff Sergeant Malcolm Langston, didn't run. He didn't shout. He walked forward with slow, deliberate steps that made the hairs on the back of the officer's neck rise. "This is police business," the cop said stiffly, trying to reassert control. "Your business is harassing my son," Malcolm said quietly, but every syllable carried weight. The officer's partner stepped out of the patrol car, younger, visibly uneasy. "Sir, we got a call about a stolen bike." Kid matched the description. "That's all." Malcolm reached into his jacket and pulled out a leather case. He flipped it open, revealing a military ID, gleaming under the flickering patrol lights. "You want to run mine too?" he said, holding the ID steady. The older officer paled. He squinted at the card, at the insignia, at the name. Staff Sergeant Malcolm A. Langston. Special Forces Group, U.S. Army. This wasn't a joke. The younger officer cleared his throat. "Look, maybe we should just..." "Just what?" Malcolm stepped closer, his voice still calm, but no longer gentle. "Teach my son another lesson about how the world sees him? That he has to earn the right not to be thrown in the back of a squad car for riding home." The officer raised both hands slightly. "No need for this to escalate." "You're right," Malcolm said coldly. "So uncuff my son. Now." The silence was oppressive. Every porch light seemed to flicker in rhythm with Avery's racing heart. The cop didn't say another word. He fumbled with the key, released the cuff, and took 2 full steps back. Avery immediately moved to his father's side. Malcolm placed a steady hand on his son's back, then turned and walked away without another word. The cops remained frozen, the whir of their cruiser's engine now the only sound in the night. It was only when they were halfway down the block that Avery let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His father said nothing at first. Then, softly, "You okay?" "Yeah." Avery nodded, though the lump in his throat betrayed him. "But why is it always like this?" Malcolm slowed, eyes scanning the street that had just witnessed his son in cuffs. "Because," he said finally, "some people need proof before they respect you. But you don't owe them that." Avery didn't speak again until they reached the house. He dropped his basketball by the front door and turned to look at his father. In that moment, he saw something deeper than strength. It wasn't just muscle or rank. It was a resilience that came from having fought these battles too many times before. The next morning, Malcolm stood beside Avery in the school parking lot. He shook hands with the principal and handed over a formal letter, one that made its way up the chain. By that afternoon, the precinct had issued an apology. Quiet, calculated, insincere. But Malcolm didn't care. He didn't want photo ops or news articles. He wanted his son to know that he was never alone. And Avery? He returned to basketball practice the next day, not because nothing had happened, but because he refused to be diminished by it. Word got around school. Kids whispered. Teachers shifted awkwardly. But one thing changed. No one questioned him when he spoke about his father again. Because they all knew. They had seen. And so had the world that so often chose not to. That night, as Malcolm and Avery sat on the back porch, watching the stars blink into existence above the tree line, Malcolm said something that Avery would remember for the rest of his life. "Strength," he said, "isn't what you show when people are watching. It's what you hold on to when they're not." And under that night sky, father and son sat shoulder to shoulder, quiet, strong, unbroken, forever ready, forever proud, forever enough.